Welcome everyone here, and I think that we've got to know each other. We'll still have more time for networking. We would jump straight to why we're here, and my co-presenter is going to be with me. We will try as much as possible to be very innovative, so I'm just going to ask her, why EEP?
So EEP started off as a concept. It was more of a solution that we were trying to find for small to medium entrepreneurs in Africa. We had a session on the, I think if we go to the very first slide. Yeah, before this one. Yes. This is the beginning of it all. This was on the 30th of June, 2018. A workshop was held here with 30 innovators from Africa, trying to find a solution to the problems that small to medium entrepreneurs are facing on the continent. You can see it's a big team. We also had information from entrepreneurs who are not covered here. But to move forward with the program, we had to bring it down a little bit, and we ended up with the Young Innovators Working Group.
So, one of the things that we realized, and thanks to Mr. President for making this initiative possible, during your informal visit, we definitely shared challenges that we as young innovators have had, and I think I'm also very happy to see a good representation of most of these young entrepreneurs, innovators, and wannabe investors even within this group. We realized that definitely there are huge challenges, and to achieve these challenges, of course, we have the SDG goals, which we believe that every entrepreneur normally, I mean, not to, I would say, not to generalize, but most African entrepreneurs are always solving challenges. They always have a need to something. Basically, they are trying their best to solve public challenges. So they always have a social impact program or entrepreneurship that they do. And basically the idea is to combine, of course, the SDG goals, combine the high fives, and we realize that definitely there is a need to capitalize on the future economy, which is the youth.
Yeah. We believe that the key to bringing up sustainability and productivity in Africa is going to be through entrepreneurs. We find ourselves, every single one of us in this room, at the crossroads of a generational change. We are faced with a lot of challenges at this point, be it climate change, land degradation, unemployment, whatever the case may be, which are signs that systems that we had before are no longer working the way we want them to work in the system today. And we believe that we are at a point where we need to think strategically, think into the future, and see how best we can solve the problems that we're currently having. We see, number one, as supporting entrepreneurs.
Yes. One of the things, and this is just a good case study, is to see what Ola does. Ola is actually a founder of Solar Sisters, basically utilizing the solar energy and also using clean cooking technologies. What we see is that for Ola to really scale, Ola actually is currently operating in Nigeria, in Tanzania, and Uganda. And thanks to Make IT for supporting Ola with the non-financial skills and support, Ola has been able to scale. And basically, you see that Ola, for instance, is making greater impact by employing people. This is where job creation comes in. And one of the things we realized was that even though we have one such great example, there are bottlenecks to unleash such innovation. How do we really support such great entrepreneurs on the continent to be able to actually make impact by giving more job creation and at the same time also providing more jobs and empowerment to even women and beyond?
So there comes what we're proposing as a solution, the Entrepreneur Establishment Program. The Entrepreneur Establishment Program is a combination of two facets, one which is a financial support and the other one which is non-financial support. From our research over the last couple of months, we found that entrepreneurs are facing both financial and non-financial challenges in building their businesses. The financial aspect, we are proposing that we have a convertible loan. Instead of just making grants and donations, we're proposing that the entrepreneur gets some kind of funding upfront And at the point when their business is successful, they have the option to pay it back or to convert that into equity. We have also introduced different ticket sizes. When we're looking at entrepreneurs, they are at different levels and different stages of their businesses. Some are at early or still trying to understand the concept, early stage, and some have done some work and are looking at growing their businesses. So we're looking at investing in those entrepreneurs, considering the different stages that their businesses are in. Currently, the ticket sizes we have are between 0 and 50,000, 50,000 to 500, and 500,000 to 1 million. Another aspect of the financial support that really came up in our conversations with the entrepreneurs is accessibility. At this point, an entrepreneur has the option to either go to the bank and ask for a loan or join a series of competitions and hope to win some money to invest in their business. We are hoping that our entrepreneurs are able to focus entirely on their businesses and not spend too much time just chasing the money. With the EEP, funds for entrepreneurs will be readily available and available to them to be able to just focus, step back, and focus strategically on building their businesses.
Yeah, and to add to this, one thing we have to say is that we are not financial experts, and I want to be very clear on this. This is actually a representation of the voices of entrepreneurs, not only those here, but also those on the continent. Basically, we raised our questions and concerns, and thanks, Mr. President, again for saying, look, we are asking you to make a proposal to us. So what we are having today is a proposal coming from non-financial experts. What we are saying is, this is what we think it's definitely going to help us grow. We want you to take it, adopt it, run with it, and make it better for us. Because we cannot put all the financial instruments in there. But what we are saying is, we want you to take this, run with it, because we believe it works. And this is coming out of the voices of many, and I'm actually happy to have the representation here. One of the things that we also talked about was the fact that, yes, we have the finance and non-finance, but what will enable it? Which technology comes in? Innovative and appropriate technology comes in. How can we bring in technology that is going to really make it, one, transparent, two, traceable, and then three, easy to scale? And this is one of the things that I would say, thanks to all the key people here, we've been able to make it happen. Again, I don't know if Robert, Ziga, and Acquah are also on the line. It's definitely important that we also share the fact that they also definitely help in contributing to kind of structuring this whole concept to get to where we are.
It's, the question now is, why do we have a convertible loan? There have been discussions around this as to what the right instrument for investing in entrepreneurs would be. Would it be a grant? Would it be direct equity? Would it be some kind of a donation? And we ended up with a convertible loan, which is a quasi-equity instrument. The advantages of a convertible loan, one of the key advantages, is that it gives the entrepreneurs peace of mind in terms of their financing. Whenever they take out a loan, they have to constantly think about the repayments. And those repayments are taking money out of the businesses that are not strong enough to support that. What we have with the convertible loan is that there is a period of time where the entrepreneur does not have to worry about repayments or anything of the sort. At the point when the entrepreneur's business is stable, that's when they're expected to either pay back or it is converted into equity. The second thing is that the convertible loan would cater for all of the company's expenses. This is capital expenses and also operating expenses. And under the operating expenses are also income for the founders of that company in the roles that they're actually performing in the company. In most cases, entrepreneurs are just working on sweat capital. They're not paid anything to run their startups, but that also puts them in a corner because doing business becomes competition between survival and survival of the business. With income that they are earning rightfully for the work that they're doing in the company, they're better able to make better decisions. They don't have to worry about what they'll eat that day. They can focus their attention on building the business. The last point is that it provides opportunity for proper valuation. In most of the cases, entrepreneurs are right at the peak of their businesses. They have no idea how big the business is going to grow. They have no idea how much value they have in the concept or the business that they are building. A convertible loan allows for time to pass when the business is being built and sufficiently generated that we are better able to understand what value that business is and allocate the right value to the founders and the right value to the investors. In most instances, particularly in Africa, entrepreneurs are losing a lot of the value of their equity of their company because they're giving it away prematurely. And with a convertible loan, we're able to avoid this.
To add on top of it, and I think I have a lot of entrepreneurs here. Please show by hand if you're able to have a place to sleep, food to eat, and you want to grow your business. Do you just want to have money in your pocket, or you would rather sacrifice that money to grow the business? Maybe, let me put it this way. I know I've answered the question. But what I want to say is, what would you do? Would you put money, so by hand, if you put the money back in your pocket, or you would reinvest in the business? If you put the money in your pocket, show by hand. If you reinvest, then show by hand. Reinvest the money that you have into your business. Alright? So definitely that is the case. One of the things we've learned is that a lot of times it starts from survival. For me to first be an entrepreneur, I need to make sure the business grows. But sometimes the challenge we have is that he doesn't even know how he can pay his rent, how he can pay some of the things. So again, to talk about this whole salary and remuneration, it also actually came out of the voices that they said, look, if we do have a place to stay, definitely we want to grow our business. That's the focus. But of course, sometimes it comes to survival, and that is why we also realize that this becomes a very key component to not close our eyes to, but to understand that this is actually one of the key challenges that most entrepreneurs face. And should they have gone through that hurdle, definitely they don't focus on just making money or getting money to put in your pocket, but they believe in scaling. And normally what they would do is they would sacrifice their own salary to hire the next one so that they can grow their business faster, scale and make more profit.
What are the benefits of the EEP, especially also of the convertible loan for entrepreneurs like Ola? We just saw Ola, who's the founder of Solar Sisters. The first thing is, we've already mentioned this, that it's sort of affordable. In reality, it may be expensive because it's equity, but the fact that they don't have to pay cash up front for repayments or interest, it makes it manageable for the entrepreneurs. The second thing is that it provides high access to quality, clean energy. This is in the case of Ola. In every situation, you find that, sorry, I'm a bit lost on this one. What was this?
Yeah. So maybe just to jump in. Yeah. So there is quality training. Looking at it from finance and non-finance. If Ola is to be a beneficiary of the EEP, not only is she being applauded for very lovely ideas that she's having and trying to scale, because now she has probably gotten a grant money somewhere, but now she will also have access to all the non-financial skills that normally she would not have if she is not in this such a network. And again, thanks to BMZ, GIZ, there are great initiatives happening. How do we bring them together? How do we map them so that people like Ola can be able to really learn more, engage with a mentor that she would have never ever have a chance to meet? And by the way, thanks to Baker IT again for really bringing such people into our radar for us to also support them. To go into, I think I've already jumped into expert pool as well. Maybe.
One aspect that we also didn't cover in a bit of detail in the slides before is the non-financial aspect of the EEP. The non-financial aspect of the EEP covers mentoring and technical training. And in the case of Ola, for example, she's building her business in Uganda, in Nigeria, and in Tanzania. Definitely she's not from all those 3 countries. She can have access through the EEP to mentors who know the market better than she does, to mentors who know the products better than she does. to training on some skills that she doesn't have, for example, sales or marketing, depending on what she wants. The EEP is structured in such a way that it is meant to cater to the needs of each entrepreneur through the use of different service providers like the mentors or different training programs that are already available on the market.
So why this makes sense for donors? Again, we want to really accelerate the achievement of the SDGs and the high five. We believe strongly that together with strong forces we can do it. And again, we want to transform brain drain to brain gain. Again, I would say that we are privileged to have some of our bright minds here, but sometimes what happens is that it gets stuck in the middle of the two worlds. They have the wish, the dream, the passion, but they are stuck because they need that enabler, they need that vehicle. And again, for us to share the impact story together, I believe strongly that if we as donors, as supporters will come together, definitely we can make it happen. We also want to, so we also want to increase the potential trade and partnership between Germany and Africa. It is already in existence. But again, most often, and I'm sorry, but I have to say it and say it again, most often it has been only the big industries. The next wave, the next economy, is not the big industries. Small companies are disrupting the market. And this is time for us not to be left out. We need to be innovative even in our trade and partnership. And that is why definitely we don't need to let the youth that normally, actually most of them are even second and third generation that have lived here for years, and do understand, especially the German market, the same way do understand the African markets one way or the other. And I think that definitely this is the opportunity that we don't need to miss.
One key aspect of the Entrepreneur Establishment Program is that it is bringing together different service providers. The EEP has been structured in such a way that it taps into already existing systems. We're not suggesting that we create one new training program or one new funding program, but we're suggesting that we leverage off of what is already there, integrating it so that it works better together. Right now, we find that there's so many programs, a lot of them on different levels, be it training, be it funding, be it technical support, but they're not connected. They're not meeting each other at any point, and that's where the EEP comes in. We're looking at bringing everything together. It's going to be on a blockchain, it's going to be transparent, but even more so, it's going to maximize the effect and efficiency of programs that are already existing. Okay, so the Entrepreneur Establishment Program will be run off of a fund. We are thinking of a fund that's entirely a standalone, and that fund will sit on a blockchain. The idea is that the fund will operate as a separate entity, so that it is not dragged by any bureaucracy or any other processes or anything that could happen outside in the operating environment, and that it's able to continue even if somebody who's a key player is to die, for example. It will raise funds from a wide pool of investors. So we're looking at setting up a fund where anybody who's willing to invest in Africa has an opportunity to invest. We are not paying attention to whether you're an individual or an organization. For as long as you're interested, you can invest in the EEP. The other aspect is that the EEP will be working from a blended finance approach. The blended finance approach refers to the two-pronged investment structure. The first one is a direct investment, which will go into the investable funds for the entrepreneurs. This is going to be directly invested as convertible loans to the entrepreneurs. The second aspect is a grant or a donation that will go towards the technical, non-financial support that the entrepreneurs require.
So, we talk about blockchain. I would try to speed up so we would even skip to the next one. I think this is what we mean, and I'll just try to simplify it. We've had a lot of buzzwords about blockchain. Basically, it's a distributed, ledger, or a decentralized database system. Basically, what we are trying to do is to also make sure that every fund that is going to be raised is represented on a block. And basically, what we are trying to say is we are looking at a minimum of $1 million to set up one block. And what we will want to do is to make sure that all transactions that are pertaining to the fund are routed through the blockchain, which means that data is always recorded. Again, what we want to do is to make sure that all stakeholders, in terms of investors, are actually going to have, a potential to have a node, which means that they can also be able to validate. I don't want to be too technical, but basically it means that you have access to also see real time what is happening, how much funds has been raised, and how much is being distributed in terms of transactions that are also going to different stakeholders in terms of the entrepreneurs. So let's take, for instance, and I'm just going to use someone from DEG, says that, well, we have invested 1 million into this fund. It becomes one block. And in that block, definitely there are going to be a lot of transactions. Every transaction that is going through the ESO is definitely also represented on the block. We are not saying that we are tokenizing the money, no. What we are saying is we are having a representation of whatever transaction which will be also on the block. And so, with other donors and other stakeholders, they are also able to see real time what is definitely happening. What we also ensure to do is to have smart contracts. So, for instance, to have my brother here, let's say, gets in funds, he would also have a smart contract which is visible to donors far away from Germany to Iceland, whoever that's going to come in. And again, for us, what we believe is that with this, we can definitely scale. We are not just saying that we want only $1 million, we are saying that we want to scale. Our target is 200 million, but we start with the little that we can to get it going.
So here we are, we have a proposal, we have a concept that we have thought about. It's nowhere near complete. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done in it. And we would like to invite you to continue the co-creation process that we started and make this concept more of a project that we can actually establish. At this point, we are thinking of going for a pilot. The pilot would be set up in one country or maximum of 2 countries just for a test with about 20 startups per block. Each block, as Moses was saying, would be for $1 million, and we are hoping to raise 10 million for this pilot project. With 10 million, we are hoping to create 1,000 jobs, with 100 jobs for each million that we get. The allocation will be in different ways, depending on the funds that we're able to raise. For example, when we have the first million in, would focus on ticket size number 1, which is the 0 to 50,000. In this case, we can invest about 70% of the funds into direct funds that go into the companies, into convertible loans. And then the other 20% would go into the non-financial support, which would be provided by entrepreneur support programs. And then about 10% of the funds available would go into administration and monitoring. At this point, we believe that an investment in the pilot will have economies of scale, particularly because the administrative and monitoring expense will remain smaller. And as we look at different ticket sizes, the allocations will also be different between the funds that go to the financial and the non-financial support for entrepreneurs.
And again, I must add to this that it's actually great to have people that also believe in such initiatives. One thing that's why we came up with this was just to look at the common needs. Someone has a proof of concept, wants to scale it to the next level. We're looking at averagely a 3,000 euro a month to run operations and get things going, brings the person to about 36,000. Again, there are already initiatives. Someone will say, why do you need to do a 50-50 for finance and non-finance? We need to understand the needs on the ground at the moment. When you look at people with already proof of concept, the needs as of now is, yes, they get a lot of training, yes, they get a lot of materials, but when it comes to the real cash, in Nigeria we say kudi, right? When it comes to the real cash, it becomes a problem. access to finance becomes a problem. So that was why if we would start with the first little bit, we're looking at something of this sort. And again, for what we see, this is definitely practicable. This is something that can be implemented in a go. And of course, with 1 million, you're already looking at 20. And 20 is already affecting, a number of 100, right? How many startups for 20? Job creation? 200, 100 or 200? 200 for 20, right? Which means that, is it? No, 100. Guys, help me. 200. 100. All right, okay. Anyway, I'm just trying to make sure you're paying attention. Good. All right, so basically the whole point is that, of course, growing it with a target of 10 million for a pilot would not only focus on this. I just also want to make it clear. This is just one bit of it based on where the strong needs were coming from all the people we've engaged. You realize that this was one of the strong needs that were coming from. But of course, if you're raising it on the other scale, you have different stages that comes in. Imagine for ideation stage, you're looking at it divided by 3, which is 1,000. That means you're scaling them not 20, but you're already making 60. So there are so many ways we can actually really show a lot of impact in there.
One may ask why the EEP? One of the very fundamental values that we've had in creating the EEP is that we wanted everyone to participate. We have listened to African entrepreneurs, we have listened to consultants, we have listened to banks, we have listened to as many people as we could listen to. And the whole idea of coming up with this solution is for everyone to participate and work together to make it happen. And now we're looking for different types of partners. We have financing, capacity building, infrastructure support, and implementation support. There is a role that each one of us can wish. I'm not sure what your role is, but if it's not on the board, we'll totally find a place for you.
Definitely. I'm not a priest, but I think that I can do well when it comes to fundraising. So you're not here by accident. So, we definitely want everyone's commitment. At this moment, we have gathered the information, we've heard the voices of the people, we are bringing it back to people in power to take decision. But again, we also have everyone here, we are all actors in this. Again, it's not only to African Development Bank, it's not only to KFW, it's not only to DEG, but it's all of us. And that is why we definitely need commitments. We need everyone to come in. Of course, like I said initially, we are not experts in terms of the finance, but we have heard the voices of the people, and this is the representation of many that we interview, all the way from the US, in terms of diaspora, to Europe, to Asia, and then within the continent Africa as well. So we definitely do need, and that's why I know there are IT guys here. The blockchain implementation, we need your skills in there to make it happen.
We open the floor for any questions.
First of all, thank you very much for your interesting presentation. I read the document you sent out to all the participants, and I had a number of questions based on the document. The first one I would say is, I missed the term or concept of special enterprise zone. Is there a particular reason why you didn't refer to special enterprise zones as a way of focusing on small companies, growing companies, to give them a particularly favorable environment to grow in?
Is that in the presentation, why we didn't focus on it?
Yes, I'm asking people compared with the
Okay, we probably didn't discuss it in detail. The presentation was a bit trying to summarize everything about the EEP, but that definitely is a key point. And we were referring to it as integrating and leveraging off of systems that already exist. And the systems that already exist are part of the ESOs. The ESOs that you're asking about.
Well, my understanding of ESOs as defined in the document are accelerators of universities and other organizations of further education. There would be basically startup parks and so forth, but special enterprise zone is a particular kind of structure, ecosystem, which gives tax advantages and all sorts of other things. Tax advantages not necessarily being the most important aspect, but they don't fit into the definition of ESOs as you define them.
Oh yeah, that's actually a very good point that you raised. And I think that this is something that we can add to it. We hadn't thought of the tax benefits at this point because we thought it would be really early. And there will be long-term effects where you can prove to a government that this is making a difference. And entrepreneurs need a tax holiday or something like that. But this is something that we definitely have to add to the EEP. Thank you.
Yeah, and maybe just to chip in, this whole EEP is still co-creation, and so definitely needs more inputs to it. Of course, we kind of, and Mr. President would agree, it's been a very short time to really come up with all this, so it's not a finished final product. It needs definitely more input, and of course that is why if you look at the technology, we're building more blocks to it. So on the content aspect also, I think we need to build more blocks to it.
If I may, first of all, thank you for the excellent presentation. It was more like a global consulting company presenting here in 25 years, and not a bunch of young entrepreneurs only. It was really highly professional and interesting. You know, when we try to come up with a new concept in government or in our institutions, we often have stakeholder consultations and run the risk of coming up with something what everybody can agree on, and then there's lack of ambition. The ambition level isn't high enough anymore. What we observe here is pretty much the opposite. You have very high ambitions and you all seem to stand behind this concept. So what I would like to find out is, when you were developing this over the last 2 weeks, where did you have the tough discussion among your group and with the other stakeholders? What were the toughest nuts to crack? I mean, it becomes obvious that you have a high ambition when you say convertible loans. They work in other parts of the world. Of course, we can also pilot them in Africa and they can work. You make a stance here. I would like to find out where did you have the tough discussions?
I think you picked right on it. The convertible loan was a very difficult discussion because not everybody thought it would work, and that there are aspects of grants that we need to consider as well. The conversation also went into equity, like why wouldn't it just be equity? So there was a lot of back and forth there. And then the second one was that we are not a recognized institution. We're just a group of young people who are passionate about entrepreneurship in Africa, and we came together and we started working on this. So in terms of credibility of what we have done has been a bit of a challenge of push and pull, because they're like, okay, who are you? You're not an institution, and yet we did the work. So that was also another part of the process that was a bit challenging for us.
Thank you. I assume the president had a reason not to ask an institution about these things.
Yeah.
You already alluded to it, that you are a group of passionate young people that have just come together and worked on this. Who are you envisioning as running the fund, managing it, and based not only the fund, but also the support structures around this great idea?
This was more finding out from the young people. It's a bottom-up approach. Definitely it's time to hand it over, but that does not mean that when you hand over a baby, the baby is still not yours in that sense. But we hand it over so that it can be trained. The baby needs to go to the kindergarten, needs to go to school, goes to the university. It's going to be definitely handed over to the right institutions. And again, it's a co-creation, so that is why we definitely need everyone's support. We are not envisioning that we are the ones going to run and set up the fund, but we are saying that this is actually the voices of the people that have come together. And again, like I said, it wasn't an easy journey, making sure you get the consensus of everyone to even get to the converging point. But finally, and thankfully, we've been able to come to this point. So we are definitely opening it to everyone here, key stakeholders, to also support, because I think that this is why it will work. If we work together, then it will work. And so it's open to everyone to come in and definitely make it an impact in it.
Now, as an entrepreneur myself, I face situations here in Germany and in the UK where lenders, before they would even consider lending any money, would say, well, what is our security going to be? Have you given this question any thought, or do you expect the EEP not to require any security?
We have given it a thought. In most instances, if it's just a bank loan, collateral is required. But from what we researched and found, most investment funds, impact investors, are providing convertible loans in Europe and in America without any need for security. So they are investing because they believe in the entrepreneur, they believe in the business that they are building, and are willing to help that business grow. So in this case, the EEP would not be asking for convertible, for collateral security, but we are also going to try and make sure that the entrepreneurs that we bring to the table and the business concepts and ideas that they have are valid and are worth looking at, and not just opening up to everyone. The entrepreneurs will be expected to apply to participate in the EEP, and if they meet the criteria, then they can be considered. We're trying to make sure, and this is something that we are also open to ideas from everyone else on how we can improve the recruitment of the entrepreneurs, because we believe the fund will only be as good as the entrepreneurs and the business concepts that they have.
And again, the last one before I will hand over to Mr. Michael is that the main goal is to make impact. And I think that this is something we should not forget, that people are giving grants, and sometimes we don't even know the impact metrics. And so for us, it is definitely important to continuously encourage entrepreneurs. We are not saying continuously fail, but we are saying learn when you fail. And so definitely that is why the whole, non-finance and finance definitely comes in. So at the end of the day, there is definitely knowledge transfer, and there is definitely impact that is made, irregardless of whether the business was successful or not. Because if one person fails and is able to share that knowledge with other people, they would learn not to fail. And I think that's the most important thing for us with regards to the EEP. On this note, I would want to invite Mr. Michael to give us a brief, word on all the things we've done, and then maybe we'll hand over to Mr. President, the EEP concept.
Thank you, Moses. I got the message brief. I have two thank yous and two comments, and then I hand over to you, Mr. President. First thank you goes to you, President Alcina, for bringing this initiative to life. That was only a few months ago, and you know, we have German partners alongside with you, and they get the mandate, they follow through and provide a platform so that the young entrepreneurs can actually meet. We try to provide our German expertise into the process as well, and now we're standing here today. And I think it's a really good example of something that has been done quickly, with determination, and with some leadership as well. You know, often you agree on something like this in a meeting and it doesn't really happen. Here it really happened, and now we even have an international G20 platform for it here in Berlin, with not only one president, but from tomorrow on, I don't know, 10 or 12 presidents from Africa being here, and you're kind of part of this. So thank you for showing this initiative, and of course thank you for the young entrepreneurs for developing this concept. I think it's an incredible opportunity to really think outside the box, and that's something that only people like you can do. You raised the point that you are not professionals working in the financial sector, all of you, and that you're really piloting something. But I think if you want innovation, you need a young and diverse crowd from time to time to really bring innovation on the table. It's not so easy in established institutions, and you did a great job on this. You gave a clear task to us. You said, take it, adapt it, run with it, make it better. We got the message, and I think there's a lot in there that can be really used. And from what I got from our experts working with you together, they were also very impressed by the many suggestions that we made. And I think you should be aware of this particular strength that you have as a group, and hope that you can also form a network that stays for a while. Because, I mean, where does innovation come from? Usually not always from the oldest and most experienced people, but from those who try something for the first time, who don't see all the buts and the ifs and what could happen, who really dare to do something. And I think young groups can do that. And if they are diverse groups coming together and open to other stakeholders and really listening to all the financial guys and development partners and all this, if you have this openness of mind, I think that's a tremendous opportunity for you, but also for us to make something out of this. So rely on that strength in whatever you do after being here together. Being a young and innovative group gives you clearly a competitive advantage compared to many others. So one day you might overtake the Siemens and Volkswagen with African entrepreneurship, and I think, well, let's wait a decade or two and Europe will raise itself and see what comes. Thank you very much for this. We got the message to bring it to the next level. My last comment is, if we want to bring this on the next level, we need to measure success somehow. And I think you already showed that measuring success in an endeavor like this could, for example, be in really counting formal jobs, and you also had the ratio here on how much jobs you could get, hopefully sustainable, lasting jobs you could generate with an additional million. I think that will be the measure of success, and you or the idea will be measured if there will be success in creating sustainable jobs or not. And so I think we need to establish these mechanisms that we can really count something. Like for any good investment, the return needs to be tangible, and it will be easier to attract investors if we have a good mechanism in place for really seeing the return on investment. So thanks to the group, and I hand over to President Alcina, if I may, Moses.
Before the President speaks, I'll ask the working group representing the young innovators to kindly come so that we present finally. We'll do it again tomorrow, no? But we'll present the concept to the President, and then maybe he can give us a word. So can the working group please join us? Where are you guys? Come on. So this is for the young innovators here. Okay, we tried to make it more Africanized. So. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much. Let me first thank Moses and Tafadzwa for a brilliant job that they have done. Please put your hands together. Tafadzwa, where are you from?
I'm from Zimbabwe.
Oh, Chinebuti and I, Baba. Shakanaka.
Thank you.
Yeah, just let me say that I want to really thank Michael. I want to thank all the colleagues that have been helping you from BMZ, DEG, GIC, and KFW. And when I came here in June last year, I remember it wasn't this setting. We were all in some kind of almost like a bubble kind of a thing. And we were really thinking about what do we need to do to create jobs in Africa and to create entrepreneurship spirit and to connect the diaspora capacity, both in terms of knowledge, in terms of finance, in terms of networks and so on, to help to grow businesses in Africa. And you guys are awesome because, as Michael said, I think this is the German part of this. Germans are known for efficiency and they get things done fast and good quality. I think this just again shows that we're in the right place here, because on my left side here we have my friend Tom Dube and also Jenny. And when we developed a similar thing like this in Nigeria, I was a minister in Nigeria at the time, from concept development and to actual rollout of it. I think it was like 11 months, something like that. And so I am very, very pleased, and thank you very much for a very great job that you have done. I took a lot of interest in this. because the collateral that we were just talking about, it's not really a big issue for me, because the collateral is the passion, is the vision, is the commitment, is the dedication to Africa and to grow viable businesses. That's the most important thing. I have never seen a group of entrepreneurs like you all here, honestly, because you're very, very focused and you're determined to succeed. And when you find people that are determined to succeed, that's the greatest collateral that you can have. Investing in them to help them to succeed. I remember when Bill Gates, started, he went out to see IBM, gave them an idea. It was just a very small idea. It was all about $35,000. And IBM said, well, there's no future for the laptop anyway, so pay me this money and let it go. How wrong could they be? So it is being able to see into the future based on the creativity of young people. And that's what I think that I have seen here. 3 components that really struck out to me was the importance of technology. And I was looking at innovation and also entrepreneurship. So the technology, when you were talking about the blockchain, I remember our meeting. There was a gentleman here. Melvin. Yeah, Melvin. I remember he talked about the blockchain, and I was very happy that you've actually integrated the blockchain into this. What excited me about it is that you have a clear structure. You look at businesses and you look at what types of financing instruments will work for businesses that are just taking off by themselves. And you come up with the convertible loan, which is actually makes a lot of sense. Because for young people, when they walk into a bank, I'm sure they also a perennial, how do you call yourself now? You're the oldest...
startup entrepreneur.
Yeah, startup entrepreneur. Yeah, so whether they're young or whatever, it's the same. Young people walk into banks, and the only thing they see is risk, risk, and risk. They don't see future. They don't see ideas. They don't see entrepreneurship. They don't ask you, how can you give me your tax returns for the last 40 years, but I'm 21 years old. How am I going to do that? And so investing in the future of young businesses is the best thing. We have to collectively put our capital at risk for young people is the point that I'm making. That's what we have to really do. I like the part of technical assistance that you have. I like the part you talk about the mentors that you're going to have. I like very much the fact that you have a digital platform that you're going to be able to follow through in a very critical way about KPIs that everybody will have. I like very much the fact that you are also looking at how to de-risk the businesses, so we will have to think through guarantee facilities that will allow that. And I also like the fact that you're thinking of a fund that will then do investable funds in these businesses. 3 issues that I wanted to raise, and I think Michael said it well. You said that you said you're not financial experts, but in fact, if you were a financial expert, I don't know what else you will do differently than what you have done. You say we should take it. We said we should essentially own it, run with it, make it better, as Michael has said, and we will do exactly that. 3 points I wanted to make is, as we think about it with KFW, with BMZ, GG, and GIZ, and so on, is how do we model this? We have to do some financial modeling to make sure that what is the rate of return and things like that. And secondly, we have to look at what kinds of businesses by sector. How do you segment them, by various sectors that we want to really look at? What will be the size of the guarantee facility? And how do we structure that guarantee facility to leverage? Because the key for a guarantee facility is ability to leverage. So if we put up a guarantee facility that can leverage 5 times what a guarantee facility is, then it makes a lot of sense. And then what will be the size of the technical assistance facility that will promote the ecosystem that you're trying to develop for these businesses to grow in and therefore thrive? I think that's important. Michael mentioned the issue of monitoring and evaluating the results and the impacts, development impacts that we are going to be looking for. I think that's also going to be useful. And finally is when you talk about it being, it's kind of a fund, it's a new fund, but recognize that new funds are very difficult to set up. You have to have fund managers and experience and things like that. So it's kind of hard sometimes to have green and green. You want to have green ventures and you have green fund. I don't mean green in the sense of environment. I'm just saying in terms of a new fund. And so I think we need to think through what are the existing funds that are out there, private equity funds and so on, venture capital funds that we can perhaps, just embed it under that so you keep your costs down and create windows that can support the brilliant ideas that you've actually given us. I think that will be a critical thing to do. And finally, of course, what's the exit plan? How long is it going to be an evergreen fund, and how long is that going to be? But leave it to us. This is our job to take it over from here. I want to say that I'm looking forward very much to working with all our partners here on those issues. I'm sure they have their own ideas about how we can make this work. I will be thrilled to make that work. I'm looking forward to discussing this also with Chancellor Michael on Tuesday when we have our session, because I think when we say compact with Africa, there's nothing better than actually tapping into Africa's diaspora assets and linking that to create businesses and create a new dynamism on our continent. I will make sure that this actually is in my remarks when I speak to the heads of state and Chancellor Michael later. And finally, is that I'm looking forward to seeing you all in November at the Africa Investment Forum that we are going to be having, where this is all going to be done. I want to thank once again all the BMZ. I want to thank DG, GIZ, KFW for facilitating all of this. I think we have a great thing here. They've given us a baby. Let's feed this baby. Let's make this baby walk and make this baby run. And I think that we can make them proud if we do that. So thank you very much.
We are really on time. I think that someone helped make this thing start. I know there are two people that might be shy to stand up, but I still want to really recognize them. Sylvia? Yeah, I know. Actually, three. Ian? Philip? And I would say, yes. Oh, yes, I was actually looking for you. Thank you very much. And to all of you who supported us by giving, oh yes, and Niels, yes. Thank you very much. And again, we will say a big thank you to your voices for making this happen. It wouldn't have been possible if we had just sat in our rooms and just decided to draft something. But thanks to you all for making it possible, and we really, really appreciate it. Definitely, we're giving them the baby, but we are still going to make sure we monitor the baby and make sure the baby grows. So on this note, we want to say a very big thank you. We will have a networking session where we can talk more and discuss more. But on behalf of the Young Innovators Working Group, and on behalf of you, and on behalf of you, and on behalf of you, I want to say a very big thank you, and let's continue to do more.